Have you ever felt like the more someone knows about you, the less power you have? Like every secret shared, every truth exposed takes something from you. Your mystery, your strength, your edge. In a world that rewards oversharing and pressures us to bear everything, there is quiet power in holding some things close. The power of privacy. The kind of power that commands respect without saying a word. Because what people don't know about you, they can't use against you. There's something unshakably attractive, even magnetic, about a woman who doesn't hand over her entire story. A woman who understands that silence isn't emptiness, it's intentional, it's control, it's confidence. The truth is, not everything about you belongs to the world, not even to the man standing closest to you. And that isn't selfish, it's self-respect. The moment you start guarding your personal truths, something inside you shifts, you walk differently, you speak with more intention. You stop explaining yourself to people who haven't earned the right to understand you, because you finally realize your voice is sacred, your story is sacred, your heart is sacred, and sacred things are not for public display. Somewhere along the way, the world tried to convince women that vulnerability equals love, that telling someone everything means you're being real, being loyal, being close. But that's a lie, because vulnerability without discernment is exposure, and exposure in the wrong hands becomes a weapon. You don't owe anyone your full download, not your trauma, not your childhood, not your dreams, not your failures. You don't have to bleed on people who never even brought you a bandage. Protecting your peace doesn't make you guard it. It makes you wise. Because here's the truth no one tells you. When a woman holds her privacy, she holds her power. She becomes unpredictable, unreadable, unshakable. People can't figure her out. And that mystery, that energy, that's influence. There's something powerful about not being easily accessed, not being easily understood, the kind of woman who smiles but keeps her thoughts to herself, who loves deeply but doesn't need to prove it, who shows up fully but still has miles of her soul unexplored. That's the woman who captivates. That's the woman who moves differently. That's the woman who never begs for love because she carries it within her. And if you're watching this, it's not because you want to hide who you are. It's because you're ready to own it. To take back your power, to stop leaking your energy to people who can't handle your truth, to stop giving away pieces of yourself to people who haven't earned your trust. You don't need to announce your worth to be seen. You don't need to share your wounds to be loved. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing, because silence isn't weakness. It's wisdom wrapped in dignity. The women who rise the highest in life are not the ones who tell everyone what they're going through. They're the ones who move quietly, grow privately, and speak only when it adds value. They've learned that not everyone deserves access to their mind, their spirit, or their story. So keep some things just for you. Let your past stay where it belongs. Let your heart breathe in peace without having to explain itself. Let your plans unfold without needing applause. The reward for protecting your privacy isn't just peace, it's power. Real, unshakable power. And if you stay with this message to the end, you'll learn exactly which truths are yours to keep. You'll understand the invisible boundaries that protect your energy, preserve your value, and elevate your presence. Because once you stop giving away what should be sacred, you start becoming unstoppable. Some parts of your story are meant to stay yours, not because you're hiding, but because you've healed. And healed people don't reopen old wounds to prove they've survived. One of the most important things you must learn to keep private is your past. Because not every man you meet deserves a front row seat to your history. Not every man can handle the depth, the darkness, or the details. And truthfully, he shouldn't have to. Your past shaped you, yes, but it does not define you. There's a subtle power in letting people meet the version of you that exists now, not the one you've outgrown. A power in choosing to rise without dragging every chapter of your pain into the room. You are not obligated to unpack your past just to make someone feel closer to you. Some men will pretend to care about your history only to use it as leverage later. They'll nod while you speak. But remember every weakness you confess, every heartbreak, every mistake, every vulnerable moment. Then, in the heat of conflict, in moments of insecurity or control, they'll weaponize it. Suddenly, your truth becomes ammunition. That's not intimacy. That's manipulation disguised as connection. And too many women fall into that trap, believing that telling a man everything is a sign of loyalty, honesty, even love. But oversharing is not a love language. Boundaries are. Discernment is. Knowing what to say, when to say it, and who has earned that right. That's maturity. That's strength. You are allowed to say that part of me is private. You are allowed to protect the chapters that were hardest to write. The parts that broke you before they built you. You do not owe anyone a tour of your past just to prove your worth. If a man only feels secure once he's uncovered every detail of your past, he's not interested in knowing you. He's interested in controlling the narrative. Let your past be your foundation, not your introduction. Let it be the soil beneath your growth, not the headline of your identity. The woman you are today deserves to walk forward without dragging ghosts behind her. And the man who truly sees you, he won't need to excavate your past to feel close. He'll respect your boundaries. He'll honor your silence. He'll love you in the now. You are not your trauma. You are not your regrets. You are not the things you had to survive. You are the strength that rose from them, the wisdom that bloomed because of them, the softness you protected even when life tried to harden you. That's what defines you. Not the pain, but the resilience. Not the struggle, but the glow that came after. When you keep your past private, you take away the power for others to define you by it. You protect your energy. You filter out those who are curious for the wrong reasons, the ones who don't see you but see an opportunity to control or fix you. But you don't need fixing. You need to be seen as whole, even with the scars. You have every right to evolve without explanation, to grow without rehashing, to build a new life without opening old doors. Not everyone deserves access to your behind the scenes just to be part of your highlight reel, and not every man can handle the full truth with grace. That doesn't make you cold. It makes you careful. It means you've learned that not all attention is genuine, and not all questions come from a place of love. Some come from ego, some come from insecurity, some come from the need to gain the upper hand. And your past is not a weapon you hand over to make someone feel secure. The woman who protects her past, protects her peace. She refuses to be reduced to where she's been. She speaks with clarity, but she doesn't bleed on command. She knows the weight of her story, and she refuses to hand it to someone who hasn't proven they can carry it with care. So when you're tempted to open up too soon, pause. Ask yourself, is this man creating a safe space for my truth, or is he collecting pieces of my past to hold power over me later? The answer will tell you everything. Respect yourself enough to remain a mystery, to be known without being exposed, to be loved without being dissected. That's the balance. That's the quiet, unshakable power of a woman who understands her worth. And when you master that, when you learn to keep the most fragile parts of your story sacred, you don't just protect your past, you protect your future. You create space for a relationship built on the present, not the rubble of what came before. You give yourself the gift of starting fresh, on your terms. And that, more than anything, is how you rise. When you begin to protect your past, something else awakens. The awareness of your emotional depth, the insecurities you've wrestled with, the quiet fears, the silent battles, the moments when you doubted your worth, your beauty, your strength. Every woman has them, but not every woman exposes them, because some truths are meant to be healed in private, not handed over in search of reassurance. When you share your insecurities with a man who hasn't earned that level of trust, you risk giving him a blueprint of your mind, and if he's not emotionally mature, that blueprint becomes a tool. He knows where you feel small, where you question yourself, where your defense is lower, and in the wrong hands, that knowledge doesn't build love. It builds control. It's not about hiding your humanity. It's about understanding that your vulnerability is sacred. You are allowed to feel deeply. You are allowed to struggle, but you are not required to display your wounds to be worthy of connection. There is a difference between being real and being reckless with your emotional truths. Too many women believe that exposing their insecurities early on builds intimacy, that if they show the cracks, someone will love them harder, that if they reveal their fears, someone will protect them. But the truth is, your fears aren't for everyone. Your doubt isn't an invitation. It's a mirror you hold for yourself, not a weapon to be turned against you. You become powerful the moment you realize that healing doesn't require an audience, that your softness isn't for performance, that confidence isn't loud, it's stable. It's choosing not to speak on the days you feel unsure. It's learning how to sit with your emotions without giving them away to someone who hasn't proven they'll hold them gently. You're not weak for having insecurities. You're human. But you are strong when you stop leading with them. Because you understand that the woman you are becoming deserves to rise above the noise of self-doubt. She deserves peace in her own reflection, not permission from someone else to feel whole. And here's the reality. When you share your insecurities too soon, you allow someone else to shape how you see yourself. If a man knows you don't feel good enough, he can begin to reinforce that belief, even subtly. If he knows you fear being left, he can manipulate your behavior to keep you chasing. This isn't love. This is control dressed as concern. That's why your inner world must first belong to you. You must be the keeper of your own self-worth, because when you're grounded in who you are, when you face those insecurities and refuse to let them shrink you, you become untouchable. A woman who knows her value doesn't need to defend it. She embodies it, quietly, fully, unapologetically. There is power in saying, I am working on me, but that doesn't mean I need to explain me. Power in standing in your truth without turning it into confession. Power in keeping your emotional growth sacred, between you, your soul, and your purpose. And when the right man comes along, you won't need to overshare to feel seen. He won't need a list of your insecurities to treat you with compassion, because the right man sees your strength first. He respects your boundaries. He doesn't dig for your weaknesses. He protects them without needing to know them all. So let your insecurities be part of your private healing, not your public identity. They are not flaws to be fixed by someone else. They are parts of you that are still learning how to trust. Give them time, give them grace, and most of all, give them protection. A woman who guards her emotional core doesn't become cold, she becomes clear. She knows that not every connection is safe, not every listening ear is loyal, and not every question deserves an answer. She's not building walls, she's building wisdom. You don't owe your fears to a man in exchange for love. Love that requires your weakness to feel strong is not love. It's insecurity wearing a mask. The love you deserve will meet your strength with reverence and your silence with understanding. Keep your insecurities in the sacred space of self-reflection until you are strong enough to share them from a place of power, not need. Until they no longer define you, but remind you of how far you've come. And when you do speak of them, let it be because you've owned them, not because you're hoping someone else will. You are not here to be fixed. You are here to rise, to become the kind of woman who moves with quiet confidence, who doesn't need to explain her softness, and who no longer fears her flaws, because she knows they do not subtract from her worth. They shaped her, but they do not limit her. And when you hold that truth close, when you walk with that kind of clarity, the world begins to treat you differently, because you've stopped asking to be understood and started demanding to be respected. That is the shift. That is the power. That is the woman you were always meant to be. The moment you stop explaining your insecurities, you begin to understand the real meaning of emotional independence. That strength isn't found in how loudly you express your pain, it's found in how gracefully you protect your peace. And once you've reclaimed that peace, the next thing you must guard is your goals, your plans, your vision for your life. Because not every man is equipped to handle the fire of a woman who knows exactly where she's going. Your dreams are not casual, they are sacred. And when you share them too soon, you give someone the power to plant seeds of doubt in soil meant only for your belief. A single comment, a raised eyebrow, a careless remark, those things can live in your mind longer than you realize. They can delay your progress, shake your confidence, and shrink your ambition. Not because you're weak, but because you opened the door too early. There's a reason vision grows best in silence. Because growth needs space. It needs protection. The most powerful moves are made in private, away from noise, away from distraction, away from those who don't see the picture you're building. You don't need permission to dream. You don't need validation to act. You don't need support to start. A woman with a vision doesn't need to be understood. She needs to be focused. And focus requires solitude. You don't need to share your 5-year plan with a man who hasn't even shown up for 5 days. You don't need to explain why you're grinding, why you're studying, why you're building, why you're stretching. A man who truly values you will never feel threatened by your ambition. He'll respect it. But many won't. Many will pretend to support you while quietly hoping you'll shrink. Because your rise reminds them of their own lack of direction. That's why your goals are not for casual conversation. They're for commitments. They're for the version of you who refuses to live a life of quiet frustration. The version of you who knows that purpose requires protection. When you tell the wrong man about your plans, you give him a chance to inject doubt where there should be determination. He may say, "Are you sure you can do that?" Or "That's too hard." Or maybe later. But what he's really saying is, "Don't outgrow me." You are not here to play small just to make someone else feel big. You are not here to dim your light to protect someone else's comfort. Your goals are valid. Your dreams are divine. And your drive is a gift. Don't let someone slow you down because they're intimidated by your speed. Keep your vision quiet but fierce. Let your work speak. Let your results speak. Let your actions do the explaining. Silence is a strategy, not a weakness. It is how empires are built, quietly, brick by brick, in the shadows, away from distraction. You don't need a cheerleader. You need discipline. You don't need applause, you need consistency. And understand this, the wrong man will always feel threatened by a woman who doesn't need him to be whole. He'll question your goals, not because they're flawed, but because he fears you'll outgrow him. But you were never meant to fit into a life that requires you to shrink. You were meant to expand, to lead, to elevate, to create. Let your life be the proof. Let your growth be undeniable. Let your journey be yours, quiet, focused, and powerful. You don't owe anyone your playbook. Not until they've shown up with respect, with loyalty, with real support. Until then, protect your plans the way you protect your heart, with strength, with clarity, and with boundaries. When a woman keeps her goals private, she doesn't just protect her dreams, she sharpens them. She fuels them. She gives them time to take root, away from judgment, away from noise. And when she finally shows the world what she's been building, it's too late for anyone to stop her. That's the kind of power that doesn't ask for approval. It moves, it builds, it grows, and it wins. You don't need to be seen starting, only finishing. Let the silence of your grind become the roar of your arrival, because the world doesn't need to hear your plan. It needs to witness your rise, and by then, you won't need to explain anything at all. The moment you stop announcing your every move, you begin to understand the strength of self-possession. Your silence becomes a shield, your discipline becomes a language, and your results speak louder than any explanation ever could. But even as you build in silence and guard your future, there's one more truth you must keep sacred: your financial details. Money is power, not because of what it buys, but because of what it represents. Independence, freedom, control. And the more financially secure you become, the more carefully you must protect the details of your wealth, your income, your savings, your investments. Not everyone who takes interest in your life is interested in you. Sometimes they're interested in what you have, or what they can take. When a woman reveals her finances too soon, she exposes more than numbers. She reveals leverage. She unknowingly invites expectations, projections, and sometimes manipulation. It might start subtly, a comment here, a suggestion there, but soon it becomes a pattern. Entitlement disguised as intimacy, guilt disguised as love, requests disguised as needs. You don't need to share your bank balance to prove you're successful. You don't need to explain your income to justify your lifestyle. Your money is yours. You earned it. You built it. And it's not a conversation. It's a boundary. A man who truly respects you will never make your financial status a focal point of the relationship. He'll honor your work without expecting access. He'll admire your success without seeking control. But the wrong man, he'll want details. He'll want to know how much, how often, how secure. Not because he cares, but because he calculates. He sees what you've earned as something to measure against his own power. And if he feels threatened, he'll begin to chip away at your confidence. He'll try to make you feel guilty for having more, or worse, he'll try to make you feel obligated to share. That's not partnership, that's possession. And the moment you sense it, you must remember, your wealth is not community property in a connection built on potential. Until a man has shown consistent loyalty, genuine support, and aligned values, he has no place in the inner circle of your finances. Love is not a bank account, and commitment is not measured by how much you're willing to give away. You don't need to carry anyone. You don't need to prove your generosity to be worthy of care. You don't need to downplay your success to protect someone else's ego. The right man will celebrate your financial power. The wrong one will be intimidated by it and try to diminish it. Keep your assets protected, not just in numbers, but in mindset. Don't overshare in moments of trust that haven't been earned. Don't let emotional highs lower your guard. Real connection is not built on access to your income. It's built on values, on shared vision, on mutual respect. And if a man begins to show signs of dependency before he's earned your trust, pay attention. If he's more interested in what you can provide than who you are, that's a red flag, not a romantic gesture. A man who values you won't ask for handouts. He won't lean on your money to feel worthy. He'll want to build with you, not live off you. You're allowed to be generous. But generosity must come from strength, not pressure. From love, not fear. From choice, not obligation. You are not here to rescue. You are not here to overextend. You are not here to prove your heart through your wallet. Your financial life is part of your foundation, and foundations must be protected. The stronger you grow, the more careful you must become with who you allow close. Because the wrong man won't just cost you peace. He might cost you progress. Keep your income private. Keep your investments quiet. Let your financial strategy be something sacred, not something offered up in hopes of connection. Because real connection doesn't need proof of wealth. It needs proof of character. You didn't come this far just to give away your stability to someone who hasn't earned a place in your vision. You built yourself up. You faced the struggle. You made the sacrifices. And now that you're standing firm, don't let anyone make you feel guilty for it. Your worth isn't in how much you give. It's in how much you've grown. And sometimes the most powerful move you can make is keeping your success to yourself. Not out of pride, but out of wisdom. Not because you're hiding, but because you're protecting the life you've worked so hard to create. This is how you stay in control. This is how you remain rooted. And this is how you continue to rise, unapologetically, powerfully, and privately. Because true strength isn't loud. It's secure. It's quiet. And it doesn't need to be explained. When you understand the power of privacy around your finances, something else begins to shift. You start seeing your entire identity not just as something to share, but as something to steward. And one of the most critical pieces you must protect is your family, the personal details, the history, the flaws, the struggles, the issues that shaped you. Because once you expose the people you come from, you give someone else the lens through which they might judge not only you, but your roots. It's tempting to think that transparency is trust, that openness equals intimacy, that sharing everything builds connection. But not all connections are safe. And not every man deserves to hear about your family's pain, your parents' mistakes, or your loved one's scars. Some parts of your life are not conversation starters. They are legacies in progress. And you must be wise about who you allow to witness them. When you talk too soon about your family's flaws, you unknowingly position yourself as someone who hasn't fully healed from the past. And to the wrong man, that becomes opportunity. It gives him a script for manipulation, a way to poke at your triggers. A method to convince you that your background makes you less worthy. Or worse, that he's your only shot at building something better. That's a lie. You are not defined by your family's imperfections. You are not limited by your upbringing. You are not bound by the dysfunction that may have existed before you found your path. Your story is valid, but that story is yours to tell in the right time, in the right way, with the right people who are emotionally safe and spiritually strong. Until then, it belongs to your healing. Not to someone else's curiosity. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your past. You don't need to unpack your family dynamics to earn love. You don't need to expose your wounds to prove your honesty. There is strength in keeping sacred what shaped you. There is wisdom in protecting what molded you. And there is power in letting time and discernment decide who gets access to the most personal parts of your life. The truth is, the wrong man won't carry your family's history with grace. He may weaponize it. He may gossip about it. He may compare it to his own and use it to create a silent power imbalance. And even if he doesn't mean to, his lack of maturity can turn your vulnerability into discomfort. Because not everyone knows how to hold your truth without bending it to fit their own narrative. That's why your family, your roots, must remain protected. Not hidden, but honored. Not concealed, but controlled. There's a difference. Hiding is fear. Protection is strength. And the woman who learns how to protect her origins is the woman who walks forward without shame, without guilt, without apology. You are allowed to grow beyond your past. You are allowed to evolve beyond your parents' mistakes. You are allowed to change the narrative. But that transformation is personal. It's not a badge you wear. It's a fire you carry. Quiet, steady, and powerful. And when you're ready to share it, it will be because you've owned it, not because you've been pushed into proving it. The man who truly deserves your presence will never make your past feel like a burden. He won't ask for family details to use as leverage. He won't dig into your history to make himself feel superior. He'll understand that your silence around your family isn't secrecy, it's self-respect. He'll honor what you do reveal. And he'll never pressure you for more than you're ready to give. Real connection is built on the present, on who you are now, on the growth you've achieved, on the direction you're moving in, not the baggage you've left behind. You are not here to unpack your family's issues in front of someone who hasn't even earned your trust. You are here to build forward, anchored in the strength of where you came from, but no longer defined by it. And when you protect your roots, you begin to walk taller. Because you know that privacy isn't distance, it's power. Silence isn't emptiness, it's presence. And your history isn't shame, it's fuel, the fire that drives you, the reason you won't settle, the reminder of how far you've come. Never let anyone confuse transparency with access. They are not the same. You can be kind without being exposed. You can be open-hearted without being an open book. You can love deeply and still protect fiercely. That is the balance, that is the wisdom. That is what makes you unshakable. Your past made you, but it no longer owns you. And the more you guard it with honor, the more you rise in your own power, not needing to explain, not needing to justify, just moving forward, focused, whole, and breakable. Because a woman who protects her roots is a woman who cannot be uprooted. When you learn to guard the story of where you came from, you begin to realize that your energy is not for everyone. Not every man deserves the full light of your presence, and not every relationship is worthy of your emotional investment. One of the most sacred things you must protect is your inner world, your insecurities, your fears, your doubts. Because the moment you expose your deepest vulnerabilities to someone who hasn't earned your trust, you give them access to the most fragile parts of you. And not everyone will handle that with care. In a world that constantly pushes women to be more open, more emotional, more vulnerable in the name of connection, it's easy to forget that your emotions are not entertainment. Your fears are not confession material for someone who barely understands your strength. And your insecurities are not ammunition to be used against you in moments of conflict. What you reveal in moments of emotional softness can later be twisted by the wrong man into something sharp, something that cuts. That's why emotional discretion is not weakness, it's wisdom. The woman who shares every thought, every fear, every insecurity with a man she barely knows is not building trust. She's handing over power, and power, in the wrong hands, becomes control. Not because you're not enough, but because you gave too much too soon. Because you mistook emotional intimacy for emotional safety. And the two are not the same. You must be intentional with your emotions. Not guarded from love, but grounded in self-respect. Not cold, but clear. Because when a man sees that you know how to hold your own heart, he either rises to meet your strength or reveals that he cannot handle it. Either way, you win. Either way, you protect your peace. Your emotional truth deserves a safe space. It deserves someone who will not flinch when you open up, who will not use your past to dictate your future, who will not judge the cracks in your confidence. But that kind of space must be earned, not assumed. And until it's earned, you owe no one your vulnerability. There is nothing weak about keeping certain things to yourself. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm not ready to share that. That is not being closed off. It is being in control. A woman in control of her emotions doesn't deny them. She just knows when and how to release them. She knows that true strength is in self-awareness. And self-awareness is power. Too often women are taught that to love means to break open, to pour out every secret, to hand over every fear and insecurity like it's a test of loyalty. But that is not love. That is emotional sacrifice in disguise. And a love that demands your emotional nakedness without offering protection in return is not love. It's exploitation. You do not need to overshare to prove your openness. You do not need to confess your insecurities to validate your authenticity. You do not need to hand over your emotional world to feel connected. Real connection isn't about how much you reveal. It's about how deeply you're seen without having to explain every piece of yourself. When you know your worth, you stop performing for approval. You stop bleeding for attention. You stop giving away pieces of your soul hoping someone will stay. Because you've learned that the right man doesn't need all your secrets to love you. He needs your truth. And truth doesn't require vulnerability. It requires presence, integrity, consistency. Keep your emotional life sacred. Let your healing be yours. Let your growth be personal. If someone is truly for you, they will create space for your feelings without demanding access to your wounds. They will respect the layers without needing to peel them all away. They will walk with you, not dissect you. Emotional self-control is not about being numb. It's about being wise. It's about knowing when to speak and when to be still, when to feel and when to protect, when to trust and when to wait. You are not obligated to open your heart to someone who hasn't shown they can handle it. That is not selfish. That is self-respect. And the more you practice this kind of discipline, the more magnetic your presence becomes. Because there is nothing more powerful than a woman who knows what to share, when to share it, and who is worthy of hearing it. She doesn't seek validation. She doesn't beg to be understood. She moves with quiet strength and emotional authority, and that energy cannot be faked. It cannot be manipulated. It cannot be broken. You have every right to keep your emotional truth to yourself until trust is proven. You have every right to grow in private, to cry in silence, to heal without an audience. Because you are not here to be dissected. You are here to rise, whole, unapologetic, and emotionally sovereign. That is your power. That is your protection. And that is how you stay unstoppable. There is a quiet kind of power in a woman who never speaks poorly about other women. She doesn't tear down to feel taller. She doesn't compete to feel worthy. She doesn't gossip to feel connected. Because she understands something deeper. What you say about others reveals far more about you. And the energy you put into criticizing another woman is energy stolen from your own growth. When you speak negatively about other women to a man, you give away more than words. You give away your confidence. You reveal your inner insecurities. You show him where you feel threatened. And the wrong man will watch quietly, filing away every detail. Not because he cares about the woman you're talking about, but because he's learning where you feel small. And later, if his words ever turn sharp, he'll use those small places against you. That's how emotional sabotage works. It doesn't start with violence. It starts with subtle permission. You may think you're simply venting. You may think you're just being honest. But the moment you bring down another woman to lift yourself up, you damage something within. Because comparison poisons clarity, and gossip fractures dignity. You cannot rise while tearing others down. You cannot glow while dimming someone else's light. A high-value woman understands this. She knows her worth is not determined by being better than another woman. It's built by becoming better than she was yesterday. Her focus is forward. Her energy is inward. Her eyes are fixed on her own path, not someone else's pace. And that mindset is rare, magnetic, unforgettable. The man who is drawn to your confidence will never need you to belittle someone else. He will be attracted to how you speak peace, how you radiate grace, how you move through life without needing to prove anything. Because a woman who speaks life into others, even in their absence, is a woman who commands respect, not with her volume, but with her values. Every time you engage in tearing down another woman, even subtly, you chip away at your own integrity. You shift the energy from empowered to insecure. You lose ground in your own progress. And worst of all, you start believing the lie that comparison is necessary for validation. But it's not. You don't need to compete. You don't need to compare. You don't need to criticize. You just need to continue becoming. When a woman keeps her heart clean of jealousy, her mind focused on growth, and her words free of poison, she becomes untouchable. She doesn't operate in scarcity. She doesn't act from fear. She moves with the confidence of someone who knows that there is enough space, success, love, and light for everyone. And that belief changes how she speaks. It changes how she walks. It changes how she chooses. If a man ever tries to pull you into competition, into comparison, into conversations that pit you against another woman, pause. Because any man who entertains division between women is not for your future. He is for your distraction. And you were not made to be distracted. You were made to dominate your purpose. Your strength is not in your ability to criticize. Your strength is in your ability to rise without stepping on anyone else to get there, to build your empire without burning someone else's, to walk your journey without judging someone else's. Because women who build each other don't just rise, they lead. And the world needs more leaders. It takes maturity to walk away from petty. It takes discipline to stay silent when you could strike. It takes self-respect to speak highly of others even when no one is watching. But those small decisions, those quiet moments, those unseen choices, that is where character is built. And character is the foundation of unstoppable success. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you keep your words clean, why you don't entertain drama, why you don't throw shade or spill tea. Your energy is too sacred for cheap conversation. Your time is too valuable for meaningless conflict. Your purpose is too massive for petty distraction. Let your silence speak. Let your peace intimidate. Let your growth make the noise. The woman who refuses to tear down others is the woman who becomes unforgettable. Not because she was the loudest, the flashiest, or the most opinionated, but because she was the most powerful, quiet, poised, focused, and unbothered. That's the energy that wins. That's the mindset that lasts. And that's the version of you that no man, no rumor, no comparison can touch. Some things are sacred not because they're secrets, but because they lose their power when exposed to the wrong ears. Your past relationships fall into that category. Not every man deserves to hear the intimate history of your love, your pain, or your mistakes. Because some people don't listen to understand. They listen to judge, compare, and control. What you share about your past can either build mutual understanding or give someone a blueprint for manipulation. When you speak about exes in detail, you may think you're just being open. You may believe you're offering clarity or showing honesty, but the wrong man will hear something else. He will hear weakness where there was once love. He will hear patterns he can use to his advantage. He will start to see himself not as someone to build with you, but as someone to outperform, outdo, or control based on what you've already experienced. Your past belongs to you. The lessons, the healing, the heartbreak. It's yours to carry, to process, and to protect. Not because you're hiding something, but because you've grown beyond it. And growth doesn't always need to be explained. It just needs to be honored. When you constantly revisit old stories, you keep yourself tethered to old energy. You bring yesterday's pain into today's peace. You relive emotions that no longer serve your present. And most importantly, you invite someone into chapters they were never part of. And that creates confusion, not clarity. A high-value woman doesn't use her past as a badge or a burden. She uses it as quiet wisdom. She doesn't talk about exes to prove what she survived. She walks like a woman who's already healed. And that energy, healed, centered, wise, is far more powerful than any story ever told. Men respect mystery, not the kind that hides truth, but the kind that carries dignity. When you don't feel the need to explain every relationship, every heartbreak, every wrong turn, you hold your power. You keep the focus on who you are now, not who hurt you back then. And that tells a man everything he needs to know about your strength. If someone truly wants to understand you, they will feel it in how you carry yourself today. They will see it in your boundaries, your standards, your peace. You don't need to open the wounds of the past to be seen. You just need to live in a way that reflects the lessons you've learned. The more you talk about someone who broke you, the more space you give them in your life, even if they're no longer there. And no man deserves to rent space in your soul without paying the price of growth. If he hurt you and you've healed, let your healing speak louder than your history. You are not defined by your past relationships. You are defined by how you rise from them, how you love yourself after them, how you protect your peace moving forward. Talking about what went wrong won't always bring you closure. Sometimes, silence brings more clarity than explanation ever will. There is strength in restraint, strength in choosing not to speak about a man who once had access to your heart. Strength in letting go, not with words, but with energy. Because when you no longer feel the urge to explain, to justify, to narrate what happened, you've won. You've taken your power back. Men who are intimidated by your silence are often the ones who want to dissect you, not respect you. They want information, not intimacy. They want to know your weaknesses before they've proven they can be trusted with your strength. And that's why discernment is essential. Just because someone asks doesn't mean you need to answer. Just because they're curious doesn't mean they're worthy. The woman who keeps her past private commands a different kind of attention. She is not cold. She is conscious. She is not hiding. She is healing. She is not distant. She is discerning. And that energy shifts rooms. It doesn't beg for understanding. It embodies it. You don't owe your pain to anyone. You don't owe your stories. You don't owe explanations for why you stayed, why you left, or why you cried. What you owe is to yourself, to keep growing, keep glowing, and keep moving forward, without dragging the past into every new beginning. Let the man in front of you earn the right to know the woman you were. Let him prove that he can handle the woman you are now. Because when you protect your past, you protect your peace. And peace is the most valuable thing you'll ever bring into a relationship. It can't be bought. It can't be faked. It's the result of inner work, silent battles, and personal evolution.